man, it's a great weekend of football we just experienced. I'm so super excited. We got Coley Mick in his. What is that? What are you?
This is Bandit from the Smash television series Bluey.
We got Cam Wolfe. He's coming in, man, dropping some knowledge. Reporter who just done report for 45 seconds. Got my Carolina Panthers. My Carolina Panthers. It's kind of like you own up on the team. We winning my Carolina Panthers. We losing. Hey, I work for NFL Network and the Carolina Panthers, right? But man, such an exciting game. You had the top three picks of this year's draft playing this weekend. What an outstanding game, low scoring because the defense was just flat out outstanding. Coach Frank Wright has really taken this week off of the play caller, right? And so he's conceded play calling to Thomas Brown. But some of the guys told me that I was really impressed, and I know Coach. The reason why Mr. Tepper, Dave Tepper, hired Frank Wright was his ability to manage. And they said the head coach, the CEO, Frank Wright, was firing on all cylinders. He had a pulse on both sides of the football and special teams. And I believe because of that, you saw a team that they still struggle, right? They're a young team. I think this is a 2-year process. And then hitting into the third year, it's kind of hitting your stride.
Steve, I love what you said there, and there's two things I want to add there, because I think, and some of this was the organization trying to hype up their fan base, but there was a lot of overselling this offseason, and I think there was initial expectation that you draft Bryce Young, and all of a sudden you're going to be a playoff team in year one. And I think that did them a little unfair with the expectations. They still have struggles on their offensive line. Their weapons aren't ready yet. They may have one of the worst receiving groups in the league as far as
Whoa,
weapons.
the
I'm sorry. I'm
worst.
sorry. I'm just trying to.
He said
Goodness
one
I'm just
of.
trying to.
gracious.
I'm just trying
One
to cut
of.
to it. I'm just trying to cut to it.
He
I
didn't
can't
lie.
say anything now.
It's just the reality. You may disagree, and you may disagree, and I respect that. You're the wide receiver wizard,
Hold on. So you're
but the
telling me you're not a
production,
yes
other,
man?
huh?
You're not a yes man? Is
Hey,
that what you're
I'm
telling me?
not. I'm
Oh
not.
my gosh.
If
Holy
if you're looking
smokes.
for a yes man, you got the wrong man.
Oh gosh. Coley's not a yes man. You're on a yes man. I need to get people different guests on here.
But I
Go
guess
ahead,
my
bro. I'm
overall
sorry.
point is that you got to give them time. Like any other team, we would have seen them draft a number one overall pick. You're thinking, we'll give them time. Let them time to develop. You remember how bad it was for Trevor Lawrence his first year, and now he's viewed as one of the best quarterbacks in the league. But because of the way that we're shaping this, Bryce Young's this, Bryce Young's that. I think they had to sell people that his size wasn't a factor so much. Maybe they oversold how much they were ready to win in year one. And so I think you're right. It takes time to do that. But I also like what you said about Frank Reich, because so much of the noise I heard on social media was that, oh, well, we finally got to get rid of Frank Reich as the play caller because he's doing this poorly, he's doing that poorly. This isn't just about like Frank Reich being a bad play caller. This is what you said. It's so much pressure, so much responsibility to be both the play caller and the CEO at the same time. It's not, especially as a first year in the org. And so if he can free himself up to spend a little bit more time, managing a young team and allowing Thomas Brown to just handle that one aspect of the in-game play calling, I think it makes everybody better.
You look at the Carolina Panthers, the whole game as a whole, right? Right, just talking about the offense. Bryce Young was hit so many times; he was under duress, but also 6 sacks. Right, a lot of that pressure. The defense is generating so much pressure, and we're just saying pressure that counts as generated pressure on the stats. The Carolina Panthers on this couple of, in the next this year and next year, especially they're going to have a lot of capital in free agency to go out there, and you have to get some guys. What I believe is you have to have depth, right? Healthy competition who are going to you start because you had a good week of practice, not because of your draft status, not because you have a big contract. because you got it done this week against a Brian Burns, against a Derek Brown. Man, Bryce was only under center 17% of the time. And you hear the 17%, so I'm breaking it down. I'm going, man, really? How much is 17%? Bro, only 6 attempts that actually of play action. You got to get Bryce under center. You got to make sure teams cannot start to tee off and key off on you. And also, too, you got to give your offensive lineman a chance. I mean, you look on the right side, there are veterans. Those are guys who've been in the league, who know how to finagle, fix, trick. I don't want to say cheat, but you pull a little jersey a little bit right
Get
here.
away with a little something, yeah.
Yeah, get away with a little something. Have a good technique.
The offensive line is holding them back in a lot of different capacities. And the reality of it is the hardest thing on offense to do is to quickly build a good offensive line. Like to be able to build an offensive line that is ready to compete and contend with these young players is going to take time. Like Ike Ekwonu was a guy they invested a lot of resources on. He was a sixth overall pick last year, and he's really struggled in pass protection. You mentioned just his skill set as a run blocker, as a power guy. Last year, when they were having success, they were running the ball, downhill, downhill, downhill. That was their game. Icky could fire off, fire off, fire off. Now they're doing a lot of backward stepping, and you're seeing some of these guys take advantage of his uncertainty. And you're right. I think he's still going to have time. He's going to have to make it. He was their sixth overall pick. They're going to have him out there. But the reality is you're seeing him and some other guys struggle to transition to what the current offense is.
You have players that are going to be on your team because of whatever restrictions or whatever the scouting report was saying about those players, right? You get a guy who he fits in our system. But man, first of all, CJ Stroud threw some passes in areas that you just don't see a young pup do. And Bryce Young did the same thing. Throwing the ball. Now sometimes the defender made it difficult for the wide receiver, right? You could bring up this play against Jonathan Mingo. Jonathan Mingo runs a quick out. You got him. He gives a release, quick, uses his hands, goes out. But see that little right? Just at the end, watch when Bryce throws it. He cannot completely follow through because someone is in his lap.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead and run the play. Look, those are the little small things they're just going to have to work out. I like this route by Mingo. He's in the slot, gives a head indicator, but this difference, he uses his hands, uses his body, comes back out, and then look at the yak. Most receivers, they see guys coming and they're going to go down. Mingo, he's about that action. Watch what he does. He sees the guy. Watch him. Look. You see how he tries to give him some?
Yep.
That's what I'm talking about. That's the things those are the small little things that I'm watching. I'm saying, there's some receivers who they would have went out of bounds. They definitely wouldn't have saw a guy and said, "Oh yeah, I remember you said something to me probably about 3 or 4 or 2 or 3 quarters ago." Now was my opportunity to go ahead and put my tea bag in your hot water and see how this is going to taste.
Well, also just having the awareness that someone could be coming from behind. I feel like you see so many, especially young receivers, cut back to the middle of the field, get hawked from behind, end up fumbling.
Or get
because
fumbled like Douglas.
Exactly.
With
Yeah.
the
They're
Patriots.
not
Yeah.
going back to the middle of the field. Everyone's got their eyes downfield. There's still 7 people chasing you down. So that was what was impressive to me there.
I love the growth that you're seeing these two guys come together with Bryce and Mingo. Like Mingo early in the season, he just was not getting his reps. But as you see him go along the season, you see how their chemistry is growing more and more. And you mentioned just the O-line there. There was another play there, and I don't know if we have it, but I loved it in the second quarter of this game where Bryce spins out, like you talked about the pressure all day, but he spins out of a would-be sack and throws the ball down the left side. I think it was a wheel route to Adam Thielen, about 30 yards down the field. And it was one of the best plays I've seen Bryce throw like since he's been a pro. Because like you talked about, he was getting pressure all day. It's easy for a quarterback to get flustered. He stuck with it, stayed with his read, and made a throw. And that play, along with that last drive where I think it was 15 plays, 86 yards, first down after first down, leading them to the game-winning field goal. Those are things you want your franchise quarterback to do. So I think you're seeing more and more growth from number 9.
Yeah, when I'm looking and watching the Carolina Panthers, you can see hope. You can see that this team is on the up. They're not going to move as fast as the fan base would like them to be, but they're moving and they're making strides. They have some good players. They have some guys that maybe would flourish with some veteran leadership to kind of help them and guide them, right? Coaches can coach you all day. But when you have somebody who understands and knows, and he's right next to you in the huddle, and he can say, "Hey, this is what's going on. Hey, be careful of this. Watch this guy. Did you see what he does that?" That's what that sideline conversation is. And you talk about it in the huddle, in between games. What do the Panthers need to address? I think they just need to they need to mix it up, get a little bit more, some guys that aren't 23, aren't 24 years old, maybe get some guys 27, 28 years old who have been at some other teams, who are ready to step up, who are tired of watching, who are hungry to to put their name in the hat to say, "Hey, I'm ready. I am ready to hit this league by storm." And then the last thing, and here's what I mean: Derek Brown, who's he's a shade, he's a nose, he's a penetrating um, defensive tackle, but yet he leads the league, he leads the team with PBUs,
Yeah.
pass
that
breaking.
shouldn't that should never be the case, right?
But it just shows also he's not pass breaking up just in the shade in the middle. Look at him, engage,
That's a
gets
nice
up
way to
there,
look at that.
understands, recognize what's going on, and then he goes ahead and gets his little 3 inch vertical.
You said you could slide a book under there. You can slide a book
You,
under there.
yeah, yeah, not one of those not one of those old encyclopedias.
No War and Peace. Yeah.
Definitely no War and Peace.
Mm-mm.
Nah, Derek Brown. Derek Brown is a guy who's looking at a big time contract very soon. He's definitely established himself as one of the better defensive tackles in the league. And you mentioned it as they moved him around. I think you've seen more of his pass rush potential. That was the big question: can he pass rush? Is he just a run blocker? I think the schemes allowed him to move around. He's showing he could be more versatile than just that gap plugging nose tackle. So that's gonna make him some money for sure.